점수 잡는 hackers.
Hi everyone, I'm Benjamin Yoo with Hackers SAT Prep. I'm an SAT teacher and one of the SAT experts here at Hackers Academy. This is class number 1 of 5 that we have planned for the practice test questions you have in front of you. I am very happy to be guiding you through these passages and questions. Before we jump into the first passage, I'd like to give you some pointers on how to approach the literature passage that you will see on the SAT. Normally, the SAT reading section starts off with the literature passage, and a lot of students struggle with it because the passage seems too long or too complex, and they have no idea where to begin or what to look for in the passage. Well, don't worry. Here are some of the common patterns you will notice in the literature passage. All you have to do is to focus on these items when you skim through the passage. Make sure to take notes if you have a short memory span. This will help you read actively as well. So, let's take a look at the first item. Who? In every literary passage that you encounter in the SAT, there will be a single character or multiple characters. Your job is to find out who they are and what their relationship is. The second item, what? The characters in the passage will be involved in some kind of an event, an incident, and because of that event, the character will develop certain emotions. The third and fourth item, when and where. The basic setting of the story should be obvious as you read through the passage. It's also important to note whether there is a shift in time anywhere in the passage. Make sure to focus on the time period, whether it's present, past, or future, or there is a flashback or recollection. Also, ask yourself, where is this event happening? Where is the basic setting of the story? Next item, why? This is one of the most important elements in the passage since there will always be a reason behind the character's actions and emotions. The last item, how? Always pay attention to how the actions and emotions change and how the event unfolds in the story. Instead of trying to desperately grasp the entire passage without any direction, try to organize your understanding of the passage based on these items. You don't need to read 100% of the passage. Reading about 70 to 80% of the passage is good enough as long as you don't miss out on these elements. Finally, remember the 3 C's when reading the passage. Conflict, controversy, contrast. Usually the characters in the passage will experience an external conflict between themselves, or a character might go through an inner conflict with him or herself. All these would lead to a major or minor controversy, and in turn an explicit contrast which you will notice in the story. Okay. That's pretty much all we need to tackle the literature passage. Oh, one last point. I would urge you to please write down the main idea or a brief summary when you are done reading the passage. With the literature passage, you don't have to read everything, but you do need to read in chunks and in order. Try not to jump back and forth too much between the paragraphs, as the sequence of the events may be crucial in the understanding of the passage as a whole. With that in mind, let's dive right into today's passage. Questions 1 through 10 are based on the following passage. This passage is adapted from the short story An Uncomfortable Bed by Henri-René Albert-Guy de Maupassant, published in 1907 in Library of the World's Best Mystery and Detective Stories. Before we begin with the first sentence, I'd like to point out that I have marked and underlined all of the essential vocabulary words and key expressions from the passage. Since we won't have time to go over every single one of them, I'd like you to pause the lecture and write down the definitions as you see them. You may see these words again on the actual SAT, so don't be lazy. Alright, let's begin. One autumn, I went to stay with some friends in a chateau in Picardy. A chateau is a country house, and my friends were fond of practical joking, as all my friends are. I do not care to know any other sort of people. The narrator of the story is visiting some friends in a country house. He has decided to spend some time with them. All of his friends are described as pranksters and jokesters, people who like to play tricks on each other. He has no other kinds of friends and he only cares to know these people. And he doesn't want to know any other friends. When I arrived, they gave me a princely reception, which at once aroused distrust in my breast. They embraced me, they cajoled me, as if they expected to have great fun at my expense. Here it says, when he arrived, the friends gave him a warm welcome and treated him like a prince. But this behavior instantly aroused a strong suspicion in his mind because it feels too good to be true. It even shows here that the friends cajoled him, which means that they were trying to persuade him by flattering him and sweet-talk him into doing something. The last part of the sentence, as if they expected to have great fun at my expense, means that the narrator felt like the friends were trying to make him the victim of their prank. During the dinner, the mirth was excessive, far too great in fact. I smelled a practical joke in the air as a dog smells game, but what was it? I was watchful, restless. I did not let a word or a meaning or a gesture escape me. Everyone seemed to me an object of suspicion. This next sentence describes what the narrator is feeling over the dinner with his friends. Everyone at the table seems overly joyful. It looks like they are having way too much fun, and this arouses more suspicion for him. And because of that, he is sensing that something is not right. Something feels off to him, but he can't pinpoint exactly what that is. So he pays attention to every single detail around the table and becomes suspicious of everyone at the dinner table because he anticipates that someone will at some point will play a prank on him. However, nothing happens to him at the dinner table, and it's time for bed. The hour rang for going to bed, and the whole household came to escort me to my room. Why? They called to me good night. I entered, shut the door, and remained standing without moving a single step, holding the wax candle in my hand. I heard laughter and whispering in the corridor. Without doubt, they were spying on me. I cast a glance around the walls, the furniture, the ceiling, the hangings, the floor. I saw nothing to justify suspicion. I heard persons moving about outside my door. I had no doubt they were looking through the keyhole. Now, these two paragraphs describe the state of mind the character is in and the actions it takes, and it almost sounds like he is paranoid because there is no proof to verify his suspicion. The next two paragraphs are pretty much the same, so you can just skim through them very quickly. I cast another glance around me without discovering anything. I advanced with short steps, carefully examining the room. Nothing. I inspected every article one after the other. Still nothing. I went over to the window. The large wooden shutters were open. I shut them with great care and then drew the enormous velvet curtains, and I placed the chair in front of them so as to nothing to fear from without. Time was flying, and I ended up by coming to the conclusion that I was ridiculous. If they were spying on me, as I suppose they must, while waiting for the success of the joke, they had been preparing for me, have been laughing enormously at my terror. So I made up my mind to go to bed, but the bed was particularly suspicious looking. I was going perhaps to receive a cold shower from overhead, or perhaps the moment I stretched myself out to find myself sinking under the floor with my mattress. I searched in my memory for practical jokes. So here, he is thinking of all the possible ways he could get pranked, and is drawing from his past memories of such pranks. Then he suddenly comes up with a precaution which he believes would be effective against the practical joke, which he has been anticipating all night long.